Hi guys, Amanda here with the Make Love Not War show. Still on a quest to help angry wives and their spouses. Today we're talking to Dr. Elfbeth Moyd. She is, together with her husband Freddie, the co-founder of the Tantra Nova Institute, where she works with couples therapy and intimacy coaching. And she wrote the book called Sexual Enlightenment, which is where I found her. So I'm very excited to talk to you today. Elspeth, thanks for having the time to come on this show.
It's my great pleasure, Amanda. Really delighted to be here.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, you're in Chicago right now?
Yeah, freezing cold, Chicago, snowy, minus 10 Celsius, minus 20. No,
Wow.
it's not really 20, it's 10,
Yeah,
10
okay.
plus probably in Fahrenheit, but it is cold.
Yeah, sounds like Denmark, except we're not that cold, but it was snowing today. So the people on the West Coast, they have it nice. We have a little colder. Okay, so I'm dying to dig into all your knowledge. What really appealed to me was the intimacy part. You know, the part about your book, how to create lasting fulfillment in life, love, and intimacy, the whole intimacy part, because I find that that is the number one trick to making love not war is to get that right and to get to that place as fast as possible. But what is your take on the topic? Do you have any advice for angry wives? What can they do?
Oh, for angry wives, for dissatisfied wives, for unfulfilled wives or partners, women partners, something is off, you know. It's like really the $64 million question is how to create not just intimacy, but lasting intimacy on all levels: physical, sexual, emotional, spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something none of us got education in. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't grow up and go to high school or college and have a class and how to create conscious relationship and make intimacy last. We learned some of it from our parents. Some was perhaps good, and a lot was perhaps not so good. But we don't learn the skills and distinctions.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my own life, I struggled with that for many decades, actually. I didn't really produce a shift in terms of love and intimacy in my life until my early 50s.
Okay.
And yeah, so I'm a little late bloomer, but I tell you, once I get going,
Great. Yeah, well, yeah. There are probably a lot of angry wives who have yet to bloom, as
yeah,
myself. Then you're not
and
so angry.
my thing was actually probably more despair. Perhaps under the anger is despair and resignation and helplessness and not knowing how.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I really was totally delusional about love. Because in some sense I had a love addiction. Like I was looking for love and I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while that was exciting at times, most of the time I was alone. And I came to a place in my life where I just didn't want to continue that. But I did not know what was in the way for me. It was like this, walking around like this. I did not know what that was that kept me from bringing the beloved into my life, where there was mutual dancing, love, and intention, and like this versus
Hmm.
one wants it, the other is not available, or falling into patterns from the past where we fight with each other because we don't get what we want. And it looks different for different women in different couples, but underlying what's there is that we there is an illusion about love. And along with that is that we haven't learned the distinctions or principles and practices that actually can create love and intimacy and sustain love and intimacy.
Into what, sorry?
Create love and intimacy
Yes.
and sustain love and
Yeah.
intimacy. So let me say a little bit something about creating versus falling. We all have fallen in love, and it usually initially it feels really good. The hormones rage, and it feels like all is happening by itself. And you know, I cannot find anything wrong about this gorgeous man or this lovely woman. Um, However, you know, either within 6 weeks or 6 years, that often is altered. You know, that's gone. It's like, what did I see in him? Or what? She's not as lovely anymore as she used to be. And so when I fall, usually at some point it hurts. And the other thing is that when I fall into love, it happens to me. So I don't know what I did, which means I cannot replicate it. You know, I
Mm-hmm.
cannot replicate that feeling if I don't know how I generated that feeling. So this is where Freddie and I come in at Tantra Nova, because given that at least I experienced this quite a bit in my way of being lost in love and having no principles and practices to create this consciously, that we, through our own transformation, through my transformation of really healing that pattern of attracting unavailability, that really is rooted in a lack of trust, you know, which I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And I was fortunate that I learned all of that through the tantric practice I applied myself to like 20 years ago. But before I move any further, I just want to see if you have any questions.
No, I'm just generally on this quest myself, because I find that sometimes married couples with kids or just couples in general end up fighting when we should be making love, and we have this choice somewhere in the line, and we always choose war. And we're actually fighting because we should have been making love. And I was just wondering, why do we do this? Why don't we just make love? It's what we want to do.
Yeah, Amanda, you say this happens in your own relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, you should see. I'm not just saying war. It's like real war. But we love each other, and it's just
Yes.
the puzzle. And I see it in many couples, and I see
Yeah.
it's like a trend that we bitch and moan and fight instead of just having a fun, loving relationship that's underneath somewhere.
Yeah, that's a really great question. You want me to speak to it?
Yeah, please.
Okay, great. So there's a thing in us human beings where we tend towards seeing more that what is missing than what is there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a propensity we have as human beings. It's a human condition.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's exempt from it. So that when something is not working, when I don't get my wish fulfilled, when I feel like I have to do it all myself, am I just running the house here? Am I the only one, although there is another partner here? I move into complaining because there's a concern that is not listened to, both by myself and then I feel not by my partner. And it doesn't matter if that shows up in the bedroom or in the kitchen or, like Freddie and I doing business together. It can show up everywhere. And there is really a particular training called for that we need to, apply ourselves to. Because only each person can shift out of that misery. Freddie cannot make me shift out of my misery.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm the generator of my emotions, my feelings. We all think like that. My feelings are caused by someone else doing something or not doing something, but it's not so.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that it's my nervous system, and whatever I feel is activated in my nervous system. Now, I'm not saying that there may not be a stimulus out there. So like Freddie's doing something over here,
Mm-hmm.
And then I go, boom, I get reactivated. Let's say, for example, he does most of the grocery shopping in our household. So I make a list. I want something very particular. And he comes back from the grocery store and it's the wrong brand. You know, the yogurt is not, I like the whole milk instead of the skim milk.
Yeah.
And then I can easily fall into, here we go again, you know, and can't he just read the list, or can't he just listen? You know, I immediately go into making him wrong. It's a reflex. It's not reflected. I didn't decide to complain now. I hear myself complaining. So the thing is, if we want to create more love and intimate connection, it's to really work with ourselves on shifting out of that mood of complaint. In order to shift out of mood of complaint, I need to be aware of that I'm complaining. What's underneath to be listened to is like, what's missing for me here? Oh, he didn't bring the right yogurt. I actually don't like that, you know. Now I can either go towards the not liking it, or can say, it's really great that he did the grocery shopping. I'm so grateful. And then I preferably speak it, darling, thanks for getting all the groceries. Mm-hmm. And when I do this, when I start appreciating, my mood shifts. And then, of course, he feels appreciated. He feels like the king. You know, what man doesn't want to be appreciated by his woman? Yeah. I mean, men thrive on it. And I actually do then too, because I feel different. But Amanda, that requires training. It's one of the distinctions of bringing love and intimacy into your life is shifting out of my miserable moods, my debilitating moods. And moods, as I said earlier, like feelings, are self-induced. I'm the one who can shift it. I'm the one who can go further into, wow, here I go again. Why can't he? Or, the yogurt is not the one I wanted, it's not here. So, okay, we'll get it next time. Let me breathe into my belly, because that alters my state of being. And then, and he did all the grocery shopping right now. So it's really, there comes a moment when I make a decision, either going to the, complaining or the appreciating. And it's so central.
Yeah, great. Very good point. And it's funny that you mentioned it. I did have a yogurt episode many years ago with my husband, and I just thought completely afterward, and I'm just like, oh, sorry, I was so selfish. And it's just one of those episodes that stick out.
Yes.
So thanks for bringing that up. Nice reminder. I'm trying to hear, yeah?
Let me just, because this is not just an irritator in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. When he unloads the groceries and I become complaining, this is actually then the frequency that is around the house, that is between us, and that goes also into the bedroom. This is why we are not making love, or I don't feel attracted to him anymore, or he just watches porn, or so it's not irrelevant. It's not a little thing, although it shows up in a little thing first. Unless we shift it there, it permeates everything. So this is essential.
So it's the small little decisions and path roads that we should look for to change. So change the small things and the big things will change. Yes. Okay. I'm dying to hear or share more with the listeners about your book. Do you have some points from the book that you think will be useful for couples in order to make love, not war?
Yes, I love to.
Yes.
So so far we have talked about shifting out of something to shifting my thought pattern, which is really like, am I gonna make him wrong? Which really is a conversation up here that has me feel a certain way, or I shift into a conversation of appreciation, both in my head, in my heart, and then in actuality with my beloved Friesenthal. I want to bring another dimension to this, which we, write quite a bit about, in our book. And this has to do with the whole realm of energy, that we all are frequency. And we are just a denser form than the air, for example. I can walk through the air. It's a different frequency. It's a lighter frequency than, let's say, you know, my arm. I cannot walk through my arm.
No.
Or the floor. We cannot walk through the floor. But again, like we can walk through water. It has, you know, anyway, the point I want to make here is that everything is frequency. And how we look at the human being is in 3 dimensions of frequency, or how frequency shows up. How can we notice it in our body, in our being, in our consciousness? And why I'm mentioning this here has to do with that unless we tap into ourselves in terms of these 3 dimensions, it's very difficult to produce the shift I just spoke about. So in the book, we describe that, you know, that in terms of listening to ourselves, because that's really the source from which I create the world. If I cannot listen to what is missing for me, what's hurting me in my body or in my emotions, or, you know, in my thinking, in my consciousness, I cannot actually intervene with anything. So just quickly give you some sense of what I mean by that. So there is, the first dimension has to do with listening to my body. You know, for example, when I have some fear or anger, how that shows up for me is like I have a knot in my stomach. Or when I worry, that's also, so there's a constriction, a physical constriction in my stomach. And then on the next dimension, there is usually a certain emotion connected with it, like the fear, you know, or the worry, like I don't know what's going to happen. A sense of survival, something like that. And then usually the third dimension is that frequency plays out in my thoughts, you know, like, I don't know what to do, I'm just not good enough. Now, may not speak this in my thoughts, but the automaticity of the thought kicks in, you know, just know, or, you know, I just feel helpless. So these 3 dimensions of the body, the emotion, and the mental being, that these are places to actually start inquiring into. When I start blaming, I act as if the environment was the cause of my discomfort. And the thing is that the resolution doesn't live there. The resolution lives within me. Now, I'm not saying, let's say, there is something off in the relationship, you know, like, you know, one person doesn't pay attention to the other, and it has been going on for a while. And the one who is not being paid attention to, you know, really feels like, oh, she doesn't love me anymore, or he doesn't love me anymore. And then may fall into something that she may have experienced when she was a kid with her dad, you know, that the dad didn't come home one night, while he came home usually between 6 and 7 and then played with her. Sorry about that. And then when the dad didn't come home one night, she was not only surprised, she was shocked. Like, why isn't he here? And went into, through this fear of losing him, into some interpretation. We make these, we call them nanosecond decisions, like, he doesn't love me anymore, because if he was here, if he loved me, he would be here, you know? So that is what we replay in our relationship then. These old stories, these old decisions without knowing that we are doing this. So that kicks in. And then I, who feels doesn't get enough attention, feels he doesn't love me anymore. I become cranky. That is when I start complaining. So I'm not saying when there is something missing in the relationship that this requires attention from both sides. It needs to be brought up. It needs to be put on the table. However, I know Freddie's not going to listen if I start complaining. He goes off on his motorbike. That is what he wants the least to hear, my complaints. And I'm quite familiar with it, like any other couple. So instead of complaining and shifting out of it, which only I can do, and then put myself into a state of equanimity, of peace, of groundedness, of centeredness, from which I can speak my voice, from what I want. I can invite him into conversation. Darling, there's something I want to talk with you about. It's been on my mind and just feel something is off. Would you be available either now or this evening to sit down and have a conversation? I cannot speak from that place of invitation for a conversation when I'm in complaint and in rage and feel like my dad just left me.
Yeah.
So anyway, and of course that needs to be practiced. So back to the book, there's also a way that we share there, as well as we share it in our workshops, where we can shift out of the anger, complaint, rage, disappointment, sadness, not to feel those feelings. However, if the feelings have me and I don't have them, I'm powerless. I'm powerless to, vis-a-vis these feelings. So in order to do that, if it's okay, Amanda, I would like to just teach a short practice. Would that be okay?
Yeah, please.
So, because talking myself out of complaint and misery is sometimes not that easy, because I feel really self-righteous. No, but it's really so. He hasn't paid attention to me for the last 3 months. This is, cannot go on like that. So how can I shift into that listening mode of myself? So there's a really great trick. What we can employ is the conscious belly breath. And when I do the conscious belly breath, I breathe all the way through my nostrils down into the lungs, which pushes down into the diaphragm, and then that extends my belly and back up again. We are going to do it in a moment. I just want to give you a sense of why that is so effective. So when I breathe all the way down into my belly, extend the belly like a big balloon, the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated. And the parasympathetic nervous system is the nervous system that regulates all our non-voluntary functions, like the digestion, the heartbeat, the blood flow, everything. At the same time, when that gets activated, it also activates the feel-good hormones like oxytocin and all the great hormones, endorphins, and that gets us into a state of feeling good. Automatically. I don't even have to work with my mind on shifting that rageful conversation just by tapping into my belly. Now, most of us breathe up in the lungs. It's wired into us. We do it automatically. When we breathe into the lungs, the sympathetic nervous system gets activated, which has us can have us a little bit more anxious, or you already can see it. My energy is up here now. So it's not conducive to calming me down. So let's do the practice now. If you could just sit in an upright position, comfortably yet erect, because it's easier for the energy to move through us. And when you're ready, close your eyes And exhale all air. Then take a deep breath in, filling the belly, the chest, all the way up to the top of the head. And on the exhalation, exhale all the way down and out. Beautiful. Now, on the next inhalation, visualize breathing in through your nostrils, down into the lungs, down into the diaphragm, into your belly, extending your belly like a big balloon. And on the exhalation, follow the breath, coming back up and out of your nostrils again. Again, a deep breath in, into the lungs, down into the diaphragm, extending the belly into your hand. Oh, place a hand on your belly. And on the exhalation, follow the breath back up and out of your nostrils again. Now stay with this breathing pattern. And when you breathe into the belly, notice how your belly extends into the hand. And on the exhalation, follow the breath back up and out again of your nostrils. Keep your focus on following the breath in and out. In case any thought comes in, just notice the thought. Let the thought be. And on your next exhalation, let the thought go. Bringing your awareness and your focus back to following the breath. Beautiful. And now with your eyes closed, take your hand off. Breathing in and breathing out. And notice the rising of your belly on the inhale and the falling of your belly on the exhale. And while you're breathing in and out, notice how you're feeling right now. Just notice how your body is feeling. Notice any sensations.
Light. Dizzy.
You're feeling dizzy?
Like swimming or like...
Also, yes, beautiful.
Like
you said you feel light?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I'm wearing a very tight skirt, so the whole belly in and out was a little hard. But I feel good. I feel it kind of shifting around in waves. Yeah, kind of waves.
So thank you so much, Amanda, for giving some feedback here, and everybody at home or in the office, wherever you may be. Just notice, what showed up for you. And I just have a further question, Amanda. Considering where you are right now, the way you feel, is that a place from which you feel prone to attack, fight, or blame?
No, not at all. I feel very, like, maybe a little stoned. Which is a good place. My husband always say I don't drink alcohol at the moment, but he always says, "Oh, you're so sweet when you have a little alcohol." Or have a drink, you're so sweet. So kind of like that.
Yes. And the thing is that we can produce that effect ourselves.
Yeah.
It's built into us. It's just to access it.
Is it the oxygen? What does it? What makes this feel like this?
Yeah. So a couple of things. One is, more oxygenation. When we really have this big belly breath, there's much more oxygen coming into our lungs that, of course, awakens our brain. In the whole body, we feel more alive or more relaxed, depending on where we are at. The other thing is that with the belly breath, that the parasympathetic nervous system gets activated and the feel-good hormones, when you start swaying, it's like, ooh,
Yeah, very effective.
So now there's one thing in order to really have that show up, that we commit ourselves to applying it. Because when I'm angry with Freddie, the last thing is for me to want to breathe. What? No, I am right here. So our consciousness needs to kick in and say, okay, Elspeth, breathe. We actually, Freddie and I, we have this signal. So when one of us or both of us get angry and are like this, now for this, one of us needs to be in their right consciousness, otherwise it won't work. Then that person says, okay, let's breathe. And that is a signal that both of us have agreed to in advance, not when we are angry, in advance. And then we follow with that. Then we breathe in and we alter our state of being. Because we do know that when we fight, it doesn't yield anything. No results, actually gets worse.
Yeah.
I'm less hurt. I'm going to get less of what I want.
Yeah.
So we have that awareness. And given that we are not so reflective in the moment of anger, it's just because the anger has us. But given that we made the agreement to breathe, when one of us says breathe, we don't resist it. We breathe. Or if one of us is really like, it's a good sign for, okay, I'm going to leave the room for right now so that I can, recalibrate. And I highly recommend that. Mm-hmm. That it only works with practicing this belly breath as a daily practice, 10 breaths every morning when you wake up and every night when you go to bed. And then the other part is having the agreement with your partner that when it gets heated and one of you says, breathe, mm-hmm. that each of you follow because you said so.
Yeah.
Not because you may like it in the moment, no, because you said so.
Very good point. Very easy to apply. Maybe not so easy to do in the beginning, but simple, and start by doing the breathing yourself and then asking your spouse to make that code word. I think that's a good idea. Because we know when we're starting, okay, now we need to avoid this. What do we do?
Yes. Yeah.
That was a very, very good and new idea from you. I like it. I'm going to start doing that, definitely.
Great.
Yeah.
When you meet with Freddie for the interview, practice it between now and then you can report back to him.
I will, and that's what it's all about, being accountable, I'm doing multiple experts, but the angry wives out there listening in need to choose at least one and follow their advice. Great stuff. Any other thoughts on the topic?
Mm-hmm. Oh, totally. So how much do we have left?
No, it doesn't matter. Who cares about time?
So I wanted, in terms of energy, where I want to go towards is sexual energy. Because this is the ultimate energy. It's the energy that makes life, new life. It's the most powerful energy. Nuclear energy is not as powerful, can kill, yes. However, nuclear energy cannot bring forth life. So, and this is the energy that is our life force energy that runs through us all the time. And it's the energy that also sources, enlivens, connects relationship. As I said earlier, there are 3 levels of energy. One is the physical sexual energy. The other one is the love emotional energy. The third one is the thought consciousness energy. And sexual energy is like it's wired into us. Both it runs through us from the beginning of conception to when we leave this planet. We look at sexual energy being life force energy. They are not 2 different things. They are just show up in different stages, like life force energy, or where sexual energy shows up in terms of subtle energy, and then it can be a little heightened energy or all the way aroused to the climax. It's all the same energy, just at different stages, different gradations. Mm-hmm. So both for our own sake, And then for the sake of the relationship, we want to connect more with this energy, because how we hold sexual energy is pretty much for baby making and then for pleasure in the bedroom, which is wonderful, both of them. However, we take it to another level, which is that I can learn to use and channel and circulate this wonderful pleasurable creative energy to imbue my consciousness and what I'm about in life. It's creative energy that comes with pleasure. These are the two ingredients, creativity and pleasure. So by channeling in it through myself, I can actually use it to embellish my heart, to embellish my feelings, to feel good. I can also, of course, channel it into a project, just like when we wrote the book. You know, I had writer's block at times, and I know if I stay in it, I'm not going to produce anything. So what I often did was that I stepped out of it, you know, with self-doubt. Who is going to read this book anyway? I have nothing to say. So I was disconnected from the vision for the book. So by doing this self-love practice where I channel this wonderful energy into my intention of writing the book, and more importantly, to bring the message of sexual, emotional, and spiritual fulfillment within and with the beloved into the world, you know. So anyway, upon completion, I was recalibrated again. And usually what happened then was that I had a conversation with Freddie. Before, I was not open to it. You know, I was resisting him because I was so clogged up. Yeah. And then I was in my flow, in my creative flow. And then I could, you know, just one thing, one idea, he opened up. Oh, I hadn't thought about it. Back to writing, and I was in my flow again.
Yeah, flow.
In the same way, I can bring this to lovemaking, or returning to lovemaking, or to rekindling love and intimacy in the relationship. So this is another dimension that we teach couples to access, so that they can alter, shift out of misery, fighting, and complaint and dissatisfaction, lack of fulfillment, into connection with the self and with the beloved.
Great advice. Great stuff. I'm going to read the book again.
Oh, great. And also, you know, Amanda, that is perhaps a good moment just for me to share that, because I know out of our conversation today, for all of you who have been listening, you know, the question is then, how will I get to practice this? What, like going deeper in the skills? So what I would like to share with you is a DVD download. It's called Secrets to Lasting Intimacy. And in that DVD, in that video, we teach you the practices, including the conscious belly breath. So you have this, you know, then with you, you can listen to Freddie's voice. And he has a great voice. So I love to do that practice. Voice. And then other practices that will allow you to connect with your pelvic floor, that is connected with your sexual center, to activate, to master that center further. Also, there's a practice that will allow you to connect with your emotional self, with your power self, with your conscious self, with your voice activation, all of that, so that you can come into your flow within, return to your own peace, and then from that place, connect with your beloved.
Yeah, in that order, yeah. Great, I can't wait to try it and to download it. And it will be for you, Anchor Wives listening out there, homework. The link is in the email with this interview. So pick that up and do that at least towards the journey of making love, not war. Thank you so much, Elsbeth. I have to tuck in the kids. It's almost 8 o'clock here in Denmark. So thank you so much. Bye-bye for now. Bye.